Welcome to episode 16 of In Touch with iOS, a podcast for sharing tips, apps, and gear for iPhone and iPad, along with related technologies that get us using iOS in fun, productive, and meaningful ways. I'm your host, Melissa Davis, and joining me as always is David Ginsburg. How you doing, Dave?
Doing great, Melissa. Welcome back. We missed you last time.
Thank you. I enjoyed listening to you guys talk about iOS 11.
Yeah, Barry, Falk, and I were on the last episode, had a blast, and it's always fun to do it in person, too. So he's had across my desk here is where I'm at, and we had a great time, and he's always got a wealth of knowledge, so it was a really good show.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. We got to do more of that.
Yeah, and maybe even get someone come on with the three of us to make a three of us. So
we'll just keep pushing it.
So a lot of news going on in the Apple world.
There is. It's been busy, huh?
Yeah. Well, the most exciting is I don't know if it's exciting, but it is exciting for most people. Is the iPhone 10. A lot of discussion out there about it, obviously, and the pre-orders occurred on October 27th. We're recording this on Wednesday, the 1st of November. Can't believe it's November already. And a lot of people ordered these phones. I think they're already sold out. They're 6 to 8 weeks back, and which I fully expected. I'm still happy with my decision to go with the 8 Plus. I just still think it's gonna be a beta device, and people will have some challenges with it. But a lot of people are early adopters. I was one of those. I just at this point I just decided, you know what, I'm gonna sit tight. Let other people test it out and see how it goes. But that's
how I feel.
There was a lot of articles out there, all the different websites. One that kind of stood out to me the most, and of course he's probably the most reliable as far as any of the Apple pundits is Rene Ritchie on imore.com. He wrote up an excellent article. We'll put a link to the show notes in the show notes for his article, and take a look to see what he had to say about it. A lot of great things about it, the Face ID and all that other stuff. But I'm not going to go too deep. We're not going to go too deep into that.
Yeah, we don't need to reinvent the wheel.
Yeah, so take a look at that article, and we'll talk about it in future episodes when the phone is actually out, because it'll be in the hands of all the users this coming Friday is when the first of the iPhone 10s will be shipping to people who were lucky enough to get their orders in at 2 a.m. Central Time or 3 a.m. Eastern Time on the 27th. So that there is that. I was also going to share with you a little bit of a kind of a saga I've been dealing with in the case of a problem with my iPhone trade-in. I traded in my iPhone. It was my wife's iPhone, actually. And she got a new 8 Plus just like I did. And for some reason, the Apple Store, the local Apple Store decided they didn't process the paperwork properly. So then the Apple Trade Up program is a great program. Don't get me wrong. I'm not going to knock it one bit. I'm very pleased of what you can get after a year. Just trade it in. You're not obligated to the carrier, and it usually goes pretty smoothly. So just kind of buyer beware. Be alert when you do trade in your phone using the Apple's trade-in program. That you make sure that it says on the receipt that it was returned, because it wasn't. So I'm dealing.
But you have some kind of paperwork backing you up that you can show them and say, "This is what you gave me," right?
Yes and no.
Okay.
They what happened was I had to go into the store. Spent probably on the close to 2 hours in the first visit, and I'm trying to figure out what happened. And I mean, and Apple's stores all have cameras, so they know what happened. So I mean, they could see what happened. They'll see where the phone went. I mean, they have all cameras in the store, so it's not like they can't figure it out.
Yeah, there's a paper trail and a video trail.
Exactly. So unfortunately, I had to talk to the manager, another person took the paperwork down. They have to call the Apple corporate, and got to through all this paperwork. So I'm hoping. So far, I haven't heard back again this week, because I had to go back a second time. Because actually, I went back to help my sister-in-law. She is the proud new owner of a 8 Plus and a MacBook Pro. So
nice.
She had a ball doing that last weekend. So I went there again, talked to a nice manager again. This time he's he assured me that everything's on queue and the bank's going to put the loan on hold, so I'm not worried about it. But just more so, I wanted to bring that up to let everybody know, beware, and make sure that when you trade in your iPhone, that it says it on the paperwork.
So is that what are you recommending that you would like to have done differently if you could have? Is there anything?
Looking closer at the receipt, I think, is probably my biggest
takeaway.
advice. That's one of the takeaways in this. I think, just make sure that you're aware of what's going on with the plan, because when you go through it, they are pretty thorough, because I did it the first time with my phone and I had no problem. So I mean, things happen, and I give them the benefit of the doubt.
You expected it to be smooth sailing the second time around, so I mean, your expectations were kind of lifted by that time. Yeah.
So, like I said, it's just be aware, and like I said, things happen. It'll get fixed. And
so now you both have the 8 Plus.
Well, you do.
All right,
we both have the 8 Plus. We had the 7 Plus before, so that hasn't changed.
Oh, okay. So that was my next question. Have you always had the same exact form factor each time?
Yeah,
you always matching.
My wife likes the 7, the larger size. Ever since she had started with the 6 Plus, 6S Plus, and there was no going back. She likes the larger size too. And I don't blame her. I love it too. I think it's got a great size display. I could never use the smaller size, the 8.
After I guess it'll be an early birthday present for myself. Then maybe by then I'll be able to let you know how I like it, because I'm vying for it. I decided I've been saving up for it, so I've been working on it. That's why you haven't heard from me. I've been just super busy working and trying to save up for it. So I'm pretty close to that goal. Good. And I've just decided I'm going to go with the 64. I looked at it and I just thought, I just can't justify. I think it's like $150 difference, and I'd rather get either an external drive or something. I don't know. I think I'll be okay with the 64. I think I'll be okay. I think if anything, there's things I can offload. There's stuff I can do to save on that space. The only thing that I would think would put me over, of course I'm going to keep taking pictures and keep taking video, but I tell you that iCloud Photo has really saved it. And when we upgraded to iOS 11, I got even more space back. At one point in time, I looked and I think I had 17 gigs free. And that's quite a bit. I think that's quite a bit. And I still have like 200 apps. So, and there's plenty of apps that I'm not using. There's stuff that I just need to clean house. That's all. So I'm willing to do the work. I'm willing to live lean. I'm just very disciplined like that.
I wasn't disciplined when I went to buy it. I was thinking, I probably should get 64. It'll save me a little extra money or anything like that. And I was like, you know what? I'll go 256.
It's just a feeling. It's just a feeling you have. You just kind of know when it's right.
The 7 Plus I had was 256. So I just, all right.
Did you feel like it was overkill, or you're just not sure yet?
Yeah, it probably is. But
well, we could trade now. Just kidding.
But I'm fine with it. Yeah.
No, I'm just really happy with iCloud and how it's been saving me space on stuff, and I think it's going to be okay. Dave, I'm a field technician, and I see this stuff out in the wild, so I get to see other people's usage case scenarios, and I just have to kind of laugh. I'm not trying to sound conceited or anything, but sometimes I look at people's devices and I'm like, oh my God, you have the 128 or 256, and it's like, you look at their usage and it's like a drop in the bucket. And then I look at mine, there's this like sliver of space that's left over. And I think, and I've been rocking this thing for 2 years, and it just seems like it's overkill a lot of times. So I don't know. That's just my feeling on it. Another real quick thing in the news, and I just wanted to mention it. I wanted to ask you more about it. So we got excited a couple episodes ago. We talked about Plenty, and they've discontinued it with AT&T, because I have the AT&T auto pay plan as myself, and I thought, I'm going to rack up some points and maybe get a case or something extra. So I signed up for it and I killed it. Sorry everybody, it's my fault. It's all my fault. I sign up for things, they die.
With every plan, every one of those reward plans, they always seem to kind of disappear.
They're kind of fickle, I guess. I don't know.
I never really got into the Plenty. I never. I'm more of an Amazon kind of guy, so I have the credit card and we rack up points that way for Amazon. I know Amazon's not going anywhere, so that tends to work better for me. But I guess a lot of people did use that Plenty. I think only AT&T is leaving it. I think the other retailers are still staying part of it, I believe. Yeah,
it was just AT&T, and I put it in there because it was timely, because it was as of yesterday. that they ended the program. So it's just something for our listeners to think about. If you were in the Plenty program and you were on AT&T and you were racking up points, you're not able to do that anymore. They're not participating anymore. So wah, wah, wah. Yeah. And then do you want to move on to iOS 11? So iOS 11.1 just dropped recently. Did you grab? Well, you were already in the beta, right? So
no, yeah, I'm in the beta, but I decided not to do the beta that time.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
I mean, I have it on secondary devices, but I don't usually do it on the primary devices, at least right away. I could have, because I knew when they were with beta 5 or beta 6, that was pretty much the gold master, and it was, because they came out with 11.2 already, which is in the public beta now. It came out to the developers a couple days ago, and then now they finally released it to the public beta testers. But
is there anything you want to share or can share about 11.2?
I have not downloaded yet, but again, it's public beta, so there's no secrets. I think the biggest thing.
I just wonder if there's anything we can look forward to.
Yeah, I mean, I think a couple of things they're having. Some, of course, more emojis as always. I mean, they added more even with 11.1. I think AirPlay 2 is going to be the big thing that they're gonna add, and then the long-awaited peer-to-peer Apple Pay, which is another thing that. That's been a problem, and that hasn't been released yet, I should say. iCloud support for iMessages. That's the features that they're talking about that they promised later in iOS 11.
Now, the iCloud support for iMessages, is that the one where if you delete them on one device, they'll be deleted everywhere?
I believe so.
Because I know that was an issue for some people. So I have kind of liked it because there's been a couple times where I've deleted something by accident, and then I was happy to get it back. So
and
I don't know.
I'm sure also it's going to have things to support the HomePod that's coming up. That's going to be coming out in December. How long we forget about that, because that was announced back in June during WWDC. So, and everybody's been talking about this. It's the most important thing in the world is the calculator bug.
Oh gosh.
I don't know if you know what this I'm talking about is.
Yes.
When you go 1 + 2 + what? It's 6? No, that's not right. What was happening is the animation, because of course Apple had to add animation to it. The calculator app, couldn't keep it just simple. That if you weren't real careful by pushing 1 + 2 +, you get it, and it wouldn't trigger the plus. So then of course it would come up with the wrong answer.
So were you able to replicate it?
Yes, I was. It's still a bug in 11.1. So it says they are going to be fixing it, and it is fixed in 11.2.
See, I find it so interesting because we went kicking and screaming from, what's the word, skeuomorphic, and I was sad. I was one of the sad pandas when that happened, because I really enjoyed the metaphoric icons. I really enjoyed the stitching and the linen and all that kind of stuff. I just liked that stuff. And a couple people convinced me. They said, it'll be so much better when all the design goes flat, because everything will launch faster. It will be more optimized. And then I thought, okay, that makes sense. And that's what kind of got me over the hump for that. But now I'm kind of frustrated because it's all these darn little Animotions. And that's what I was going to bring up. One of the things that I'm still struggling with is right away I grabbed that 11.1 because I was excited. Well, first of all, the thing that got me over the edge was bringing back the 3D app switcher where you press on the side, because I really, really missed that. So I'm happy that that's back. So I had to grab it just for that. Normally I care about the emojis. I wasn't quite as excited as I was about the 3D app switcher, but that'll be exciting. But one of the things I was hoping that it would fix, which I was having problems with, was when I swipe between pages. And I've got, a gazillion pages because I've got them all loaded. And there are times when I'm trying to do something and I go to swipe and it's like, really? Seriously? Come on. It just hesitates. And then you probably haven't seen this because you have the newer device, but see, I'm still on a 6S. And there are times when apps are stuck in the suspended animation mode.
Yep.
I'll go to pick it up and I'll see that one of the apps, lately it's been settings, and doesn't seem to be a rhyme or reason to it, because I'll think to myself, well, gee, was that the last app that I had tapped? No. I was in another app, or something. So there doesn't seem to be a reason for it. But you'll look at the app and it'll be kind of in that gray state where it looks like you have tapped it and then it was about to spring open, but it didn't.
Right.
Do you know what I'm saying?
No, it does it on messages for me too. So
so you have seen that then?
Oh yeah, it's a bug. I mean,
Oh, okay.
I see it from time to time, and it gets frustrating. You end up having to just close out the app and go open it back up again.
Yeah, basically. So, I mean, where there's a will, there's a way. We are geeky like this kind of stuff. It frustrates us, but it's not the end of the world. And I wouldn't say my blood pressure skyrockets because of it. If I get on a Windows PC, then my blood pressure goes up. I'll probably ping the new heart feature in my watch, and it'll say, "Do you know your heart rate is above 120?" That's what'll happen there. But with this kind of stuff, no, I don't get upset about it. I take it in stride, and I'm like, oh, it's something to figure out. What does upset me, though, is I think about my clients, my clientele, my family members and my seniors and people who do get really frustrated by it because they don't know how to get around it. It doesn't intuitively occur to them to force quit the app and just go back into it again. They don't seem to, rock that, whereas we're like, yeah, you just we know how to deal with it. So I wanted to touch base on that. That's one of the topics I wanted to discuss was, and you said you had some ideas about this. So this is what I've been hearing as a field technician. This is my observation, is what I'm hearing is all the grumbling is that my clients, they feel like they've been forced to upgrade. They feel like they don't have a choice in the matter. Now, that's not exactly true. That's how they feel, and that's the way that they perceive it, and that's their reality. And I'm not telling them that they're necessarily wrong, but it's not intuitive enough, or Apple hasn't made it obvious enough that, yes, you have choices and you can back out of this. They just kind of get into this screen where all of a sudden they feel like they're forced to upgrade and they don't have any other choice. And then they're upgraded, and then things are different and they're not prepared. So one of the things I thought to myself, well, gosh, how can I stop this? Like, what is causing this? Because when I realized today when I was looking through it, I just had those settings turned off. That's my first tip of the episode, is when you go into settings, you can disable automatic software updates. Now, you're going to tell me something more about that, but that's where I wanted to start off the conversation. Okay. Is if you go into settings, you tap on your name, you tap on iTunes and App Store, and then you switch off updates. That's at least one place to start. And for my clientele, I would recommend, and anybody who supports their in-laws or their parents or their relatives, I would suggest that you start there by switching off all of those switches, because that's where, Apple thinks, oh, well, we'll just turn everything on. We'll just turn on all the things because these are features that we want you to know about. But it ends up frustrating people because they didn't expect it to happen. So I would recommend for a certain set of people to just go ahead and just turn off all of those switches until you have a chance to say, hey, you might want to watch this video. This explains what the new features are, that sort of thing. So what were your thoughts on that? I mean, I would love it if everybody would just get all the updates when they happen, but realistically, it's really not. I don't think it's fun for a lot of people.
Well, but if you're talking about going into the iTunes or app stores, and not that I'm trying to correct you, but that just turns off all the automatic downloads of the apps and updates to the apps.
Okay.
I think you're talking about.
So it's not the iOS.
It is not iOS updates. No.
Okay.
What happens
walk
is.
Me through why does that seem to show up? Because that does not happen to me. I do not get. In other words, I have to wait until I hear about it. Just like we were talking earlier about, you didn't get the notification for Skype. It didn't say to update it, but I did. So what's the difference there? I don't get the badge. I don't get anything telling me, hey, iOS 11.1 is out. Go get it. All I get, is I have to go get the news. Like I have to see it drop in Facebook or on Twitter, from people that I know. And then I go and I look, and then, there it says it's ready. It doesn't just get pushed to my phone. Well, so what is happening that's like making people feel like they've got to do the upgrade now or never?
Well, the thing is, when they see the settings icon and has a little number 1 next to it, then
I don't get that.
They go to the update. What Apple does is it downloads the version the latest version onto the phone. So of course that's going to take up space. So what you can do is you can go into the settings under General and under iPhone storage, and then you'll able to find the iOS update in the list of apps, and then you could tap the iOS update and then delete the update. But what will happen is, especially when there's a big update, like or any update for that matter, it'll download it again, and then it comes back. So it doesn't force the updates. You have to actually go into the About software update and then tell it install now. But if you're thinking, that's the thing we probably need to educate people on, is if they are not ready to update yet, don't do it. I mean, if you're ready, you want to stay on the previous version for a period of time, then just let it be. If it's taking up space, on the other hand, then those are the steps. And we'll put the link to the support article in the show notes on this. It's basically the title of the support article is "Getting Help with Over-the-Air iOS Updates." And
so, is it downloading? And nobody requested it. So that it's downloading automatically despite having that turned off?
Yes.
Because that's what I'm trying to figure out. That's not happening for me.
It will not happen because you cannot turn off iOS updates. You can turn off app updates automatically, but you cannot turn off iOS updates, at least downloading it. You have to still initiate the installation. When you see
I have to initiate the download too.
Well, normally, no, it should download. I mean, that's why I'm saying.
That's what I'm trying to. I cannot seem to replicate the problem that people are having, where they're telling me they're using the word force, and they're telling me I was forced to upgrade when I didn't want to, and that's what I'm trying to replicate. Because that's why I went in there and I turned it back on again, because I thought that under iTunes and App Store, I thought that if I had that, because I had that switch off, I had automatic downloads turned off. I get what you're saying. That's right. For app updates. Correct. Because I didn't want those on anyway, because I'm one of those people that likes to read all the meta. I like to read all the details and stuff and know what it is that I'm getting when I'm getting an app update. But I thought, well, maybe that was preventing the software update, the actual iOS update, because I never get the badge. And it never shows up just automatically for me. I have to wait until I hear about it in the news.
Right.
And then I have to go to General, and then I have to tap on Software Update. And then I wait, and then it tells me that there's an update available, and then I download it, and then I install it. I have the option to wait if I want to, because it takes a while to download, and I'll set it aside. And then I'll get that message that I think people are getting that'll tell you, oh, it's ready to install now. You can either cancel this or have it do it overnight or something, which, that weirds me out because of a long, long time ago. I guess it's just PTSD. Yeah. I didn't want to ever have to have it update while I was sleeping because of alarms not going off and things like that. Not that it could happen. It did happen. Once was enough. So I just like to have control over the situation, and I like to experience it for myself so that I can help out my clients. But that's not what's happening for me. It's not getting downloaded automatically to my phone. It never has. It hasn't since I had a 4S. It didn't do it for the 5S. It just hasn't. So I just wonder what is it that I'm doing or not doing that I don't end up in that situation. And I'd like to be able to replicate that from the people who are really upset over having, felt like they were forced to upgrade. Yeah,
like I said, they aren't going to be forced to upgrade for iOS. Again, we're talking about iOS, not apps.
But what it sounds like is happening is, like I said, it's not happening to me, but you're saying that in most cases, the iOS update or upgrade, depending on if it's a single digit or if it's just dot increments,
from the 10 to 11,
it gets downloaded automatically. Right. Like I said, it's not happening for me, but it's happening for most people. It gets downloaded automatically, and then what probably happens is it triggers that, oh, you're running out of space message, and then people then they get directed to the upgrade screen. I mean, I'm just trying to figure out what is happening, that they're getting into a situation where they're reading that here's your upgrade, make it happen.
Well, again, I think what they're doing is they're seeing that little number one that's on the gear shortcut for the settings, and what they're doing is it's just they think that they have to install it. At least
they just think that they have to,
right?
Because Apple kind of words it strongly, it's security updates and you've got to do it and you've got to do it now, and
Yeah, when people see that, they think, oh yeah, I got to do it right now, because they see the number and they do that. But I put the support article in our show notes, and I think that'll kind of give you some of the answers as far as getting help with over-the-air iOS updates. They talk about things like not enough available storage space on your device, where it may not download, unable to reach the server at the time. It's very possible the update couldn't complete. Things like that. And also it talks about how you can go in, like as I talked about earlier, that you can go in and actually delete the download if you don't want to update right away.
Right. Okay.
So I think that article should answer a lot of your questions related to iOS. But I can't answer why it's not. If you don't update it right away, you and I think I'm not probably more me than anybody else. So as soon as I see it's announced, because yesterday or the day before, I mean, it was like an onslaught of emails that came from Apple saying we've updated High Sierra, we've updated iOS, we've updated tvOS, so they went nuts yesterday, the other day. So when I see that, I'm always the one going to update right away. That's really where it's at when it comes to that.
For incremental updates, so not major upgrades, for the incremental ones, I do those right away. And like I was really waiting for this 11.1 to drop because I thought it was going to fix some of the other problems that I was having. And, it made me happy. It gave me back the 3D touch on the app switcher, which was good. But it's the major upgrades that I usually advise people, just hang back a little bit. It's kind of like the iPhone 10, it's like, let everybody else kind of work out all the kinks, let all like the Daves and the bleeding edgers, let them do the upgrades and see if they can work out the kinks. And for me, I mean, I don't have like a test machine, so I have to wait a little bit too. I can't wait as long because I'm a consultant. I have to eat my own dog food. So I do have to jump in with both feet, but I do wait a little bit. Like for High Sierra, I kind of wished I would have waited maybe a little bit longer, but I don't know. It is what it is. Yeah. So I did do the upgrade so that I could see what kind of problems there might be. Sure. So yeah, I recommend waiting for major upgrades, which is, from 10 to 11. But if it's just, 11.0.1 or 11.1, go ahead and do it.
I mean, especially 11.1 definitely was a must update because there was a lot of bugs that needed to be squashed. So, other thing you also mentioned, and I also mentioned too, is the merits of using a tool like Jamf. I was actually at the Jamf user conference.
Yes, I wanted to pick your brain about that. So, what do you think about that for small groups?
I won't get into what the conference really was about because it's more on the education and I know you're interested in that because you do help schools and with iPads and such, but and the enterprise, and it just blew my mind how big Jamf, the company in itself, is. I mean, they have over 16,000 customers. Such a big, huge company, and the tools are very helpful, especially in the enterprise, keeping control.
Well, that big, they must be doing something right.
They're doing something right because that conference 1,500 strong, and they took up a huge hotel. So, but I won't get into much detail on that because I don't think the audience will be that interested in that. But they do have a product called Jamf Now, and of course, Jamf is JAMF, and they do advertise on a lot of podcasts. They're not a sponsor of this show, but they do have a product where you can manage your own devices. Now, most people I tend to doubt have, when you're in an enterprise, you could have 16,000 iPads. So then a tool like Jamf Pro comes in handy to be able to manage those devices. But most households, I would tend to think they have maybe 5 or 6 devices at the most. I mean, your household's got 5 or 6. So
yeah,
my household only has 2. So I mean, and
it's not just my household. It's like, then the extended family and my dad who lives 3,000 miles away. So
I mean, really the only benefit Jamf Now is going to give you is the fact that you can manage the device and you can make sure the updates are happening and keep it
or not happening
or not happening, things like that. But I think in most applications in the consumer level, I think the Jamf Now is probably leaned more towards a small business or a very large amount of devices. I mean, when you can get a trial and they give you three devices for free, so if you wanted to play around with it, you could. But it's a little advanced for most people, I think. So I wouldn't think there would be too much about it. Hate not to put a shameless plug in, but I'm going to be on when this is recording. I was on Chuck Joyner's show with Mac Voices. I forgot to tell you that before the show. That Chuck and I talked about the Jamf user conference. So if anybody is interested in hearing my views on that should be coming out probably by the time this is out. By the time we publish it. So.
Oh, okay, great. So we can find out more about the
getting more my view of what was, because it was my first visit to the conference and giving some of my insights on it. So, so I saw that we were looking a little bit about that, and overall, I think, like I said, there's always different other ways we've talked about. iMazing. Sorry, I got that brain cramp there. Another way of managing your device. So there are a lot of other third-party tools that you can do that. And I think most of the listeners, in my opinion, is probably a little more overkill than what they're probably willing to want to dive into. Again, my opinion. So
probably like Apple File sharing and maybe iMazing in a single household where you've got the devices that are connecting to your local Wi-Fi and that sort of thing.
Right. So, I mean, iMazing will probably be okay for most people, but they have the Amazing Mini, so you could don't have to get so elaborate with it. So.
Now, you talked a little bit about, with Barry last time, you talked a little bit about TeamViewer, and I just texted my dad the other day. I was like, hey, Dad, I want to try something out on you. Mm-hmm. I haven't tried it yet, and I know you said that you don't think it's going to be for the, how they have like the free consumer level version of it versus the business level. You don't think that we'll be able to – they did have – I read, I guess it expired just the other day. They had a limit on the time where you could try it out for free, viewing the other iOS device on the other end, but that's not going to continue. You don't think? I mean, I'm still going to try it just to see it if it works.
Give it
TeamViewer.
Give it a shot, and I'm not sure if it's going to be free or not for the free evaluation version, quote unquote evaluation version, because similar to what Log Me In did, then they cut off everything. It's possible TeamViewer may do the same as well. So check it out, because what it is it allows people to be able to use the screen recording feature that's in iOS 11 and be able to actually share your iOS screen over the internet, which is really cool.
Well, if I try it and it works, I'm really going to be excited and bragging about it, because that will be a fantastic tool for people trying to teach grandma and grandpa how to use their iPad and stuff. I mean, it's just this is, my clientele. This is the demographic that I serve, and I love them. I just feel for them. My heart bleeds a little bit for some of these problems that they run into, and I just feel kind of bad that, well, they feel like that they have to do these updates, and then they don't like the changes, and I kind of want to talk them down off the ledge and prevent an iPad from going flying out the window.
No, I mean, I tried it. It's absolutely amazing, because when you go into the screen sharing, you actually when you choose to record the voice, normally it has the choice of TeamViewer in there, and then you just start the recording, and then it shares the screen in the TeamViewer application.
Well, I'm excited to try it, because I would love to be able to see my dad's screen, because, with most of my clients, it's easy enough. I either go to their house, or if they're remote, they have a Mac and I have them plug it in, and we just use QuickTime. I mean, that's just the way it's been. And that works fine, because then I'm verbally explaining the instructions and they're doing it, so that they're actually learning it, instead of saying, here, Grandpa, give me your phone and I'll just do it for you. Because that's what a lot of kids do. And then people get frustrated because they don't learn it themselves. And this kind of forces you to do that. But in the case of my dad, for example, he has an old Mac that it's just not part of his ecosystem anymore. Sure. We're just using it for iTunes and stuff. But so he basically doesn't have a computer to do that with. So it's really an exercise in love and frustration. It's like, no, Dad. And he's trying to verbally explain to me what the problem is. And of course he has the plus size and I don't yet. So that's going to be another benefit for when I do get the plus size, I'll be able to see the exact same issues that he's having on his screen that I might not be able to see because I don't have that size. So that'll be interesting. I'm looking forward to that. I'm just looking for better ways to try to get people to feel happier with Apple. Because there's just been a lot of grumbling, and I just, I'm happy. I love my Apple gear. I'm, borderline fangirl, but I'm also having I have a reality dose, and I have a healthy level of constructive criticism towards a lot of these things. And so that's my lens that I'm looking through. I did put a link that I think people will enjoy. You don't have to be geeky to enjoy this, but there's a video. It's called 10 Years in the Making, The Evolution of iOS. And it's from Computer World from IDG. And it's just a fun little video. I'm going to send it to a couple of my clients and see what they think, because so many times people get all excited and up in arms about, they changed this and it looks completely different. It's like, well, yeah, this is the evolution. I mean, this is why things change. And it'd be nice to have a perspective to look at how things started to where things are now. And even my dad, he'll come around. He was upset about the fact that when he upgraded, something had changed. And I guess it was the timeout. He didn't like the fact that while we were talking, his screen would go dark a lot quicker. And that may or may not have been a product of the update. But of course, he blamed it on that, rightfully so, because when things change, it wasn't that way before, and now it is. And so, iOS 11's been kind of the scapegoat lately. But, he talked himself through it. He's like, I realize it's probably an improvement. It conserves on battery. I don't have to have the screen lit up the whole entire time, but it wasn't immediate. That wasn't an immediate thought for him. He had to think about that for a little bit. So People will come around, but it's that initial, people just don't like change. They just don't like change. Whereas like we thrive on it, you know, it's like, yes, please change that. And they're like, no, leave it the same.
I won't disagree with that. There are a lot of people out there who hate change. So
yeah, they really do.
So a couple of things we wanted to talk about. One thing we talked about this before the show. We wanted to touch upon this new thing that Apple just announced. It was kind of found, I should say, is how to change your Apple ID from a third-party email to an Apple domain. I don't want to get too deep into this because we could probably spend an hour talking about this all by itself. So we have
we'll digest it later.
Yeah. We have a link to it in the show notes. 9to5Mac wrote up an article about it relating now that you can do this because you were not able to do this prior to this announcement. That, like, let's say you have a email that's whatever at yahoo.com as your primary Apple ID, and that's the email address you use, and you prefer not to use that anymore, and you would rather switch it over to an iCloud ID, or if you were legacy, you had me or mac.com. You now can do that. And there's an updated support article out on Apple's website as well to tell you how to make the shift. So there's a lot of things that you have to go through. One of them is especially if you're using a device that's got all your accounts synced with like your iPhone, iPad, that you probably want to sign out of those first before you change it. And then you can go into appleid.apple.com and you can go in and make the change and change the Apple ID. Now, if you have an existing iCloud account, you can go through and add that as part of the family sharing. And we might want to just do our next episode just to talk about this.
This is going to be a whole,
because everybody's going to start getting confused with this. So, because my thought process of always is the fact with Apple IDs is having a separate Apple ID for my iCloud for storage and backup, and a separate purchasing account. And then my wife has her own Apple ID and her own iCloud storage, so it doesn't conflict with our contacts. And
that's the way I've been doing it, but I'm starting to rethink that. I had to whip out the mind node and start making a mind map about it just to try to explain it to my husband. Like, okay, I'm going to take this account and I'm going to make it yours, and then this account's going to be gone here, but it's not going to be gone. Like, it's going to be. So if you don't hear from Melissa for a while, I will be rocking in a corner somewhere trying to figure out what I need to do to make all the things talk to all the things. It's going to be interesting. There will probably be a big gaping void in the time-space continuum when I'm done with iCloud.
So take a look at that link we'll have in the show notes about that. It'll give you more details on it. And we can, in future episodes, we can dive a little deeper as you try, and I may attempt to try. I can't promise you. I mean, maybe I would try it with a dummy iCloud account I have set up, and I'd rather test it rather than do it on my live account and see how it goes. So we can look into the family sharing. I can see
how this is going to come in handy for our listeners, though, especially because, I mean, think about things like Yahoo. I mean, or AOL, AOL is still around, but Yahoo's still around, but it might be going away, and people might be like, Yahoo, I haven't used that email address in 5 years. Why would I want that to be my Apple ID? And so this is going to be a good thing that people could change that. And I can tell you right now, there's a handful of people in my demographic that I just know are going to benefit from having it end in iCloud.com, because it'll make more sense to them, because they get so confused and they think, wait, but you told me it was Gmail. I'm like, no, it's not it's not Google. No. It's been messy for a long, long time. And it's time to start cleaning some of that stuff. Apple is cleaning up its room. So I'm happy to see that.
Couple more things to talk about. You definitely, that was a nice idea to talk about, because we both have the OWC, the Thunderbolt 3 dock. I was able to get one, and I absolutely love it. And really, it's more used for your Mac, but it does have some iOS experience to really help you along.
Well, we said, it's related technology, so we're covered.
Yeah, so it's a super nice dock. I mean, the one kind of disadvantage of it is a little pricey. It's $299 to buy this device.
Yeah, I have to give full disclosure. OWC actually gave it to me to test out and review, and I've been putting it through its paces and giving them lots of feedback. And I'm actually on my second dock, so I want to put it out there that they really, really care about quality. I mean, the build quality on this thing is just excellent. I think it's worth it. I started it, and I'll put it on my blog later. I started making a justification for people like me, people like you. I mean, we are mobile citizens. We're mobile digital citizens. And for someone like me, where I can just pull my 13-inch laptop out of my bag and put it on my desk and plug it in with one cable.
Yep.
And I mean, technically, the way that I have it set up, I mean, that's the great thing. There's so many different ways you can configure this thing. It's got 13 ports on it. There's just so many things that you can do with it. And I've tried so many different ways. Trust me, I've had it in different places on my desk. I've had it under my monitor. I've had it next to my monitor. I've had, my laptop on the left, on the right. And it makes your desk just so flexible. And I just love being able to just pull my laptop out of my bag, put it on my desk, plug it in with one cable.
Right. And
my external monitor, lights up. I just have to press a key on the keyboard. And it's like I sat down to a big iMac all of a sudden, with external display. Like right now while we're podcasting, I've got my notes on my big screen, then I've got the chat window, and I've got other smaller windows on another side. There's other things you can do you can repurpose older devices. I have, because I'm kind of a loyal OWC gal, I have one of their older docks. I have one of their Voyager docks, and I couldn't use it for the longest time because it's I could with USB, but it's old FireWire
right.
800.
Yep.
Well, there happens to be a FireWire 800 on the back of this thing. So I was able to put that back into rotation, and now I have another Time Machine drive that I can use. So I've been really, really super happy about that. Yeah. There's really not anything bad I can say about it. I mean, like you said, it is pricey. That would probably be its only ding against it. But like I said, if you're a mobile person, you can justify that price fairly easily, because for what you would have to shell out for an iMac and a MacBook Pro, this makes it modular. This really kind of bridges the gap between those two things. So you really can kind of have your cake and eat it too, I think. And so, it's pricey, but I think it's worth it, especially like I said, because of the build quality. You can get mine's in space gray. It matches my MacBook Pro. It looks like they're meant to be together, It's got great build quality. It's got all these little features. The only thing I just want to get it out of the way. I did have, and I put a link to a video. I did like a little, and I apologize for the form factor of it. I was using clips at the time because I thought, I'm gonna make this into a clip, and didn't quite work out that way. So it's a very kind of cropped video, but you get the idea. And I did a little demonstration of the issue that I was having. And like I said, it's not necessarily with the dock per se, and I'm not going to, reinvent the whole discussion that I had on the video. It's a couple minutes. Yep. But I was having an issue with the display port. And I think it's because I upgraded to High Sierra. So there's one of those gotchas. There's one of those times where everything was working beautifully. I had this flow, it was so wonderful. And then I thought, I was about to publish, a review on it. And I was like, let me upgrade to High Sierra. Let me just put it through this, because I was really just putting it through its paces. I mean, I was throwing everything I could think of at this dock, plugging stuff in and unplugging stuff and changing things around. And I thought, let me do this one last test. Yeah. So I upgraded to High Sierra, and you're not having the same problem because you don't have the same display issue, but I'm using a mini display to VGA, and that broke. So it works, but it's all stretched out, and you'll go watch the video and you'll see exactly what I mean. I demonstrate it. That was the only issue that I was having. But again, I think it's a High Sierra issue. And then I also put a link to the show notes for Apple support communities. There's a really great wealth of information for when you're having a problem with things. And it kind of validates you that, no, I'm not going crazy. Other people are having the same issue, almost identical to what I am. They talked about it with an iMac 2017. Of course, mine's a MacBook Pro 2016. So the hardware is a little bit different, but the problems were the same in the thread. So I put the link to that so you can read up on that to see what other troubleshooting steps other people are taking. I've tried some of those. And then, of course, the link to my video, and also the link to the OWC Thunderbolt 3 dock for Mac sales. And why don't you tell me? I know you're chomping at the bit. Tell me what you think of it. You've been using it for a while now.
I agree with you 100%. I mean, I have everything plugged into it, including I'm using a wired connection directly into it because it's a gigabit port, and it works. You just plug in. I got everything. I mean, when I hook up my mic here when we do the podcast, it's right there, plugged in, ready to go.
Mine too.
Got a headset jack in the front that I use for my external speakers because it's the 3.5-inch plug. I got everything plugged in the back. I don't have to think about it. The only thing is the monitor I have is the old Apple Thunderbolt 27-inch display, which was a Thunderbolt 2. Even though it has a display port, old display port jack on it, that doesn't work. You have to have the Thunderbolt 2 to Thunderbolt 3 adapter from Apple, and then that of course takes up one of your only two USB-C or Thunderbolt ports on the dock. So you kind of
that was the thing that bummed me out. Like I said, it wasn't a problem with the dock, but what I liked about before when it was working, I liked using the VGA, because I'm not that super picky about the difference. Occasionally I do some graphic design, so I'm happy either way, whether it was VGA or HDMI. But using the VGA freed up a USB-C port,
right.
So it was nice being able to use that. And now I'm just down one port. So boo-hoo, first world problems here, right?
Sure,
but still, it was like, oh, that was really, really nice. I didn't have to. So now I have 2 cables that I have to plug in.
Right.
I have, because that's what I decided. That's just the way I decided to configure it, because it woke up a lot faster.
Right.
So I have my HDMI to USB-C plugged into the right, and then I have the what some people complained about the cord being really short. It's the Thunderbolt 3 USB-C cable. It is short, but if you really don't need that much length. I guess it just depends on how you decide to configure your desk. But I have plenty of room. It is short, but I have it right next to the monitor, so I don't have an issue with the length of the cable. And of course, you can always get a longer one, but the one that comes in the box is just short. I prefer it because I can't stand all this extra cable slack. Then you have to tie them up, and
sure.
So it's nice just to have that nice little short cable. So I'm going to continue writing about it and posting about it. I wanted to talk about it at least on an audio podcast and get people thinking about it.
Sure.
There'll be a link to it in the show notes. You can see the video, the little video problem review that I did. But I'm going to continue to, because I love this thing. I can't keep gushing about it. Yeah. So I'll keep writing about it and, discovering new things that I can talk about. But it's a really great piece of tech, and I really think people should, if they're having that kind of lifestyle where they want to be mobile and they want to, or if they're trying to decide, well, should I get an iMac or should I get a MacBook Pro? This is kind of like an intermediary, and it kind of makes that decision a little bit less painful. Yep. Because even though it's expensive, it's not as expensive as having both. So it is. If you look at it from that perspective, it could be a way to save money instead of not spending more money. Yep. It just depends on your perspective. But I think it's been great for being able to be modular and mobile, and just being able to just plunk this down on my desk and plug it in. And it's like I have a full desktop experience again. So that's been just really, really fantastic.
Yeah. So just take a look at those show notes, and we definitely liking this dock, and it does have some iOS angle to it, so I like that. So it'll be easier to charge your device. And it charges fast too. It does. It's
super fast, and because iOS 11 has been like chewing at my battery, so having that fast port in the front there has been really super handy because it charges it so fast that I can just kind of like top up my battery and then go about my day again. It's really just one of those great things that helps you get life done.
Yep.
So there'll be other things I can say about it later, but that's about what I got for now.
Gotcha. So let's with the remaining minutes we have left, we have 2 other things we wanted to touch on. You had a good tip. I want to just start with that first. Is the deleting the email voicemails that won't stay deleted, and that was a good tip.
Have you run across this before?
No, I remember when you told me about this.
Our friends at iMore again. I linked to it. Voicemail that won't delete. They have their own forums over there at iMore, and you can look up problems. And real quick, this was an interesting scenario. A teacher was like, "Oh, you're an iPhone guru, right?" And I'm like, "Oh, kind of." And so she asked me, and I didn't immediately have the answer, but I knew how to get at the answer. I knew how to Google at least. I hadn't experienced this personally, but I was able to find the answer in the forums. I emailed her, I said, "Try this," and she was like, "Oh, you're a genius," and it worked, and it was great. So I can only imagine it's worked for countless other people. But if you've we were just talking about this a little while ago, where you might have an issue where if you only have an older device that's only got 16 gigs or 32 gigs and you're running out of space because the iOS 11 or whatever iOS update has dropped and now it's sitting there taking up space, one of the ways that you might want to make room for it, in addition to deleting Facebook and Messenger and all that other stuff that takes up, it just grows out of control, is deleting your voicemails. They can take up space. And a lot of people, like, I just kind of let them go. And occasionally, like, I'll do a major purge, and there's some that I like to save. But some people just don't want to save any of them. And there's good reason for that. But then what happens is you go to delete it and it doesn't stay deleted. It just comes right back. It's like this mystery boomerang for some reason. So I looked it up, and it seems like that the fix for this is, if you're having this problem, if you're trying to delete a voicemail and it just won't stay deleted, you put your phone into airplane mode. And you can do that super easy now by swiping up, and we've got that beautiful control panel that we've been bragging about. And you tap on the little airplane and it turns orange. And then you go back into your voicemails and delete them. And then when you re-enable airplane mode, or when you disable it, when you bring it back online again, they should stay deleted. So that was the tip. And again, I linked to it where you can read a little bit more details, but that was basically the gist of it, that put it into airplane mode, delete them, then disable airplane mode, and then they should stay. You might have to delete them again, but they should stay deleted is the thing. Yep. So this is like a carrier thing, isn't it? I mean, it's not necessarily an iOS problem per se, but it's something to do with the carrier on the server side of things. It just won't let them go for some reason.
Yep. So, yeah, that's a good tip. I really appreciate you finding that. And I remembered that from when you had mentioned it to me. So, yeah, that does fix the issue. AT&T is pretty famous for having problems with their voicemail sometimes. So that's definitely good. So our last topic we want to talk about today, and we just have a little few minutes left that we could do it, so we may have to carry this over a little bit.
And that's okay.
That's okay. Is journaling. I'm not a very good journaler. I'll be honest. I should do better, because there's a lot of times, I'm working on things, and you have hit me on some of these things. Day One Journal, which is available for iOS as well as it's available for the Mac OS. And does have a great way of being able to journal things. And you had some experience with it, right? I'll be honest, I did win a lifetime premium from our friends at Mac Stories. I got into one of their contests and actually won a lifetime subscription, which was kind of cool. But I haven't had a lot of time to be able to start diving into it. One of the things I did notice that's really cool is it actually notifies you on your watch, on your iOS device, through the notifications telling you, oh, you visited 6 places today, and do you want to journal about it? So I think that's kind of cool, being able to do that, and then you can go into it and say, oh yeah, I remember what I did today, and I can start journaling what I do. But I got to get better doing that.
And if you use Facebook and Twitter and things like that, and that's the kind of cool thing about it. That's what tipped me off onto this years ago, is I was looking for a way. This was way back before you could actually download your Twitter history. The host. There were all kinds of little hacks and things that you could do to get at it, but it wasn't quite where it is today. And so I started looking, and I stumbled across this a while ago, and you can set it up to kind of go crawl those services. So even though you say you're not really good at journaling, if you're using social media, you're already kind of journaling anyway. True. And this pulls it in for you. So, I've got I've got 15,151 journal entries, Dave, and that's in one
you
journal.
Are a crazy woman.
That's in one journal out of 4 journals that I have. So that's just like my personal journal. And the reason why, so that is crazy. The reason why that number is so high is because, that's why I had a preface with that, is because a long, long time ago, I pulled my Twitter feed into it, and don't go look at my Twitter feed, because that's got like 30,000 tweets or something like that. Come on, I've been using it since 2007. Give me a break. Yeah. Get off my case.
How did you do that?
Huh?
How did you pull that in there?
Into Day One?
Yeah.
There was some kind of import or setup or something. So again, we need to explore this more, but I'm just telling you that's one of the things you can do with it. You can pull in your feeds.
Files. You can import JSON files.
Yep. So I must have done that a long time ago. And I think there was a setting that I turned on a while ago, because now I'll get to feeling that way. I'll think, oh, I didn't write anything down. I should have written about that. And then sometimes I'll go and I'll look at my journal like, oh, I did, because I posted on Facebook or Twitter or something. This was back from the day when my babies were first born. I was using Twitter. I mean, this was before I had like 4,000 followers. Nobody was listening. Nobody was paying any attention. And I was hashtagging my kids. This was back before hashtags were a thing. Everybody, thanks, internet. You just ruined everything for me. But this was back, when in the early days of stuff, this was my baby blog. So, every time the kids, did something cute or whatever, I was a lonely mom. Okay. So it's very lonely when you're a new mother in the beginning. And so Twitter was kind of my get out of my cave card, so to speak. And so I was journaling a lot of things, and they were like little insipid stuff. And so I pulled it all in there. And so that's how I ended up with all that. But, I added Facebook to it. And every time I checked in on Foursquare or Swarm, I just was trying all these different social media tools. And at one point in time, that's what I kind of wanted to do with my life. I wanted to get into SEO and all that kind of stuff. Okay. So I tinkered. So that's the result of me tinkering with all of those kinds of things. And so now I can have a track record of every this is why, Dave, you don't want to mess with women, because we remember everything because we put it in our journal. I can tell you what you told me 3 weeks ago. No, I'm just kidding.
I certainly hope not.
Sort of.
I'm just kidding. So
I have a terrible memory, so I use this as my external brain, and I just really, really love it. But the great thing about it is you can have multiple journals. So I mean, I have my personal journal, but then I also keep one for business, and I started one just to tinker around with it. I started one for this podcast. You can have multiple journals, and you can keep them separated and color code them. And I think you can import your activity, so your step counts, the weather. What else? There was activity, locations. It tells you where you were. It'll plot things out on a map. If you put pictures on it, it'll plot that out on the.
And I saw the social media connections you can put on it too. So
okay. Yeah. So did you turn that on now? So
I
you
just
won't have to feel so
guilty. I'll see what it does, but that might scare me. So we'll see. We'll have to bring this up on another episode, because we could probably spend a good 20 minutes on this discussion all itself. But because there's a lot of I think this is a good tool, and of course I can't complain. I don't have to pay for it, but
it's a wonderful tool, and it's wonderful and I think it's free cross-platform. It goes from your iOS devices to your Mac, and it syncs seamlessly, and you can start one post on one device and pick up where you left off. It'll even have a little reminder. You can have little quotes show up. Yep. It's a really, really great tool for personal and for business, and I really encourage everybody to go check it out. Yeah. I want to explore it more in other episodes too, because I am on the hunt. And from now until next time, I would like to put out a request to listeners to tell me what your thoughts are on mobile blogging. So we talked about, social media, and, there's Facebook and there's Twitter, and that's kind of the problem, right? Because those things kind of sort of killed our blogs. I used to blog more regularly, and then Twitter and Facebook just made it like super easy to be able to just post there. But I want to get back into actual blogging. Like I have a client who kind of tasked me on this. She wants to go on a trip and she wants to have a blog, but that was the caveat. She doesn't want to use Facebook or Instagram or Twitter, any of those. She wants to do it on a blog, and that's totally a great idea. And I want to do that. And I keep trying these things. Day One a while ago had a place where you could actually publish to kind of like they sort of had it rolled in. It was kind of baked in, like it gave you an online publishing platform, and it was great because you could just pick selective posts, which is what I really liked about it. Okay. And then they did away with it for some reason. They said they'd bring it back, so it's something we have to kind of keep an eye on. But I am on the hunt, just as I am still on the hunt for the perfect iPhone case for my new 8 Plus when I get it. I am on the hunt for a mobile blogging tool, and we're going to explore this later. I'm looking at Blogo right now, but it's kind of buggy. I want to know if anybody else has any other suggestions out there. So that's your homework. Tell me about your mobile blogging experiences. What do you use? If it's not Twitter, not the book face, not Instagram, any of that kind of stuff. I want to know if there's something else that maybe I'm not seeing, or some other idea, or some way that you can use Day One to do it is what I'm interested in looking at. So we'll explore that more, and you'll have to stay tuned to hear about that.
And that's a good segue to wrap this up.
Yes. So We thank you for listening, and we hope that you are more in touch with iOS after hearing this episode. Subscribe to our podcast in your favorite podcatcher. Show your friends how to look for us in iTunes or on Stitcher. And we look forward to bringing you more useful information in future episodes. I'm Melissa Davis, and you can find me online all over at The Mac Mommy.
And I am David Ginsburg, and you find me on Twitter at DaveG65.
All right, until next time, thanks for listening.